Hey, what's up? This is Adele here. This video is all about that quintessential techwear accessory, the belt. You'll see them pretty commonly in a lot of techwear outfits out there, and it's perhaps used even more prominently than belts in streetwear. So there are quite a few different options here. To be honest, belts are not the most difficult thing in the world to make, and that's something that I'll get into a little bit later in this video, but there's a whole bunch of different options at different price points as well. So let's have a look at exactly what some of those are. I have a couple of different ones which I can talk about in a little more detail, and then afterwards we'll go into a few alternatives for those or a few other options that you might want to consider. The first belt that I want to talk about here is from Cloudburst. Reason for that is because it uses a belt buckle that you might have seen quite prominently in techwear, known as the Cobra buckle. These are one of, if not the most prominent belt buckles seen in techwear outfits, and for good reason. These things are pretty heavy duty, they're all metal, they have this cool little quick release system so they come off nice and easy, and they look pretty cool as well because they have a bit of a military tactical association, which goes pretty nicely with a lot of other techwear gear. Cloudburst for this belt have not only added their branding around here, but it looks like they've doubled up on the material strap itself. So the whole thing is very heavy duty and feels pretty thick. They've also included this loop on the front here which you can use to hang your keys off. Often this is something that you will find as a separate accessory, so it's pretty cool that Cloudburst have included this one here. And of course, because it is Velcro, you can just pull that off if you don't want to use it. If you come from more of a streetwear background here, then you might recognize this kind of buckle as the Aleeks roller coaster belt. Don't mug yourself off and buy the Aleeks one, because let's face it, it's really expensive. The only difference is that it says Aleeks on this little buckle bit here. Everything else is exactly identical. So this one is certainly cheaper than the Aleeks one, and I'll talk about a few other cheaper options a bit later in the video as well. So that's one of the most notable belt buckles in techwear, and a lot of people are going to know the Cobra buckle by name, but there's another one which I definitely think is worth considering, and that is the fidlock V-Buckle. The fidlock V is part metal, part plastic, so not quite as heavy duty as the Cobra, and it's a little bit more slimline as well, but it has a very futuristic look about it, and that is followed through with the fastening system of this, which I think is super cool. It's very, very quick to attach and detach, and it just feels really satisfying to do because the fidlock name does mean that there's some magnets going on in there, so it just snaps together and pulls away super fast. So keep an eye out for this kind of buckle. This one happens to be attached to this Riot division belt. This is probably my most used belt. I think there's a lot of features here to like. Although it doesn't have the same little dangling carabiner type thing that the Cloudburst one has, there is a little D-ring here, so you could attach a carabiner and then some keys to it if you wanted. There's also webbing that runs all the way along the outside, so you could attach some kind of accessories or a pouch or something to it if you wanted. You'll also notice that unlike the Cloudburst version, this one does have an extra bit of material which you can dangle down if you want to, and that's quite a common feature of techwear belts, that they will have some kind of additional dangling material. For this one, on the end of the dangling section, there is a D-ring, which doesn't really have any functionality, but just kind of finishes the belt off nicely. And there's this Riot division branding on both sides as well, but it's quite small, it's fairly tasteful, I don't mind it being there. The third belt that I have here is from Motif. This one is a lot more basic than the other two belts, but it does also come in at a lower price as well. It's got a very simple fastening system. It's just to kind of pull the material through and pull it tight kind of deal. And on the end of the extra material sort of dangling down section, there's this Motif branding. So if you're into that minimal monochrome black and white kind of deal, then you could consider this one. There is also, although this strap itself is quite thin, there are these two little kind of reinforced sections which you can use as webbing to hang something off of if you want to. So those are my three. I think all of them have their advantages, and depending on what kind of outfits you want to wear them with, all of these can look pretty good and pretty appropriate in techwear style. But there's a whole load of other things out there as well. Even if you want to focus on a specific kind of buckle, there are different options out there for you. So if you really like the look of that Cobra buckle, for example, with that heavy duty, quite military style, then as I mentioned, a lot of people go to Aleeks first of all for the roller coaster belt, but you don't really need to do that. In my opinion, it's a little bit overpriced, and I don't really think you're getting anything extra above an average Cobra belt. If you want to save yourself some cash, because these are a military design, you can find Cobra belts on places like Amazon, and they come in pretty cheap, and you'll get all the same aesthetics of the buckle and the quality that's associated with it. What you might miss out on though is those little dangling sections that, as I mentioned, you will often see on Techwear belts. If you do want to pursue that more strap heavy aesthetic though, which let's face it is pretty common in those classic Techwear images, then check out Havona Labs. They're over on Instagram and they use the Cobra buckle quite heavily along with those classic Tech Ninja designs to create exactly the kind of belts that you're probably imagining when somebody says Techwear belt. From memory, these come out somewhere between $50 and $70, so pricing is decent, and they use really high quality hardware as well, and I've certainly heard a lot of good recommendations about them. Alongside the named belts on their Instagram, they do also take commissions, so if you have a particular idea in mind, you want to have some kind of crazy belt that's got like 1,000 different dangling straps and it turns into a giant skirt, then they can probably do that for you. Another option, if you're a bit picky and you want something very specific, is you can simply do it yourself. As I mentioned at the start of this video, belts are not the hardest thing in the world to make, so if you want to get started on that DIY kind of thing, start doing your own stuff, then this is a good place to start. A lot of the hardware can be purchased quite easily from military surplus places or Amazon or other kinds of online retailers, and with a couple of stitches here and there, you can assemble yourself a belt pretty much exactly the way you want. That's a good budget option if you want to get those high-end or classic Techwear styles without spending the same kind of money. It does require a little bit of time and expertise, and maybe you'll do one wrong by accident, but you'll come out with something that's very much your own and is a little bit unique. If I can find some kind of tutorial for that, I will put it down in the description. Oh yeah, one more thing about the Cobra buckle that I didn't mention is that often these are too big to fit through belt loops on pants. So what you have to do is take the buckle off and then loop the belt through and then stick it back on. That is by design, it's so that the whole thing is very secure but then still easy to undo and do up, but it is a little bit annoying. If the fidlock V-Buckle was more your thing, then Dispatcher ones to check out. They produce quite a nice looking minimal one, but also do some accessories on the side, so that gives it a little bit of extra functionality, so you can just pick up the bits that you want. I really like the image that they've got where they're hanging a camera off the belt. I think that looks really cool, and it's a cool piece of functionality as well, having that camera constantly on call, so if you want to whip it out for a quick picture, you can do exactly that. Guerrilla Group, who are a pretty big name in the world of Techwear, also do a fidlock belt, and these guys come in a little bit more expensive than Riot Division, as you might expect, but they've got some cool color options and they come with nice little gradients as well, so again a little bit of a unique option. If you're not really feeling any of those buckle designs though, then I always feel like Y3 are a decent brand to go for this kind of accessory stuff. Often they can be a little bit expensive, but it's always futuristic looking stuff which looks pretty appropriate along with Techwear gear, and every season they seem to come out with something that's a little bit different and new as well. Often they have a little bit more of a streetwear or an athleisure slant compared to pure Techwear, shall we say, but it's certainly an option worth considering depending on what the rest of your wardrobe looks like. And that is everything on some of my favourite belts out there and some of the ones that I've got in my collection, so let me know what you think of these options here, and if you've got any alternatives that you've come across, then by all means let me know, because I'm sure there's a whole load of different ones out there that I don't even know about. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, and thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will catch you in the next one. Shout out to Doomstrike. I was doing that deliberately. And shout out to Fargin, that's exactly the kind of attitude that I feel like outlier purchasers will have if you maybe are into Techwear at one point, or that classic ninja kind of style, but then think, oh, maybe I want to mature things or kind of sober up a little bit. Then yeah, they're a cool brand for that. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, then A, thanks very much, and B, why not check out some others? They'll be going up there, maybe if I remember this time, and there'll be a little subscription link on the side as well, so you can hit that, you can be subscribed, and we can be best buddies.